Sierra Romero, University of Michigan, is one of the most prolific hitters in college softball history. Already a two-time All-American and two-time Big Ten Player of the Year, she's entering her senior year, again listed amongst the tops in the nation in home runs. But how, with this much power, does she get away with an unorthodox swing that doesn't even release her backside? We're going to look at it through an analysis of her mechanics and then using some 3D technology. First, you'll see that Romero does get good torque and separation. She coils her hips very well, is extremely short to the softball. Although she could use her lower half a little bit better in getting into the ground, she gets away with mechanics that are powerful through separation and torque. But you'll notice as she rotates through the softball that her backside almost gets stuck, where her lower body is starting to rotate, but the back foot stays anchored to the ground. When this happens, it stops the hip rotation abruptly, and the back foot ends up playing a tug-of-war battle against the hip rotation. So how does she get away with this? We'll look at some 3D technology to help illustrate it. The graph on the right, you see 4 colored lines. The red indicates the lower body or the legs, the green the core, the blue the shoulders and arms, and the brown the barrel head. Although this 3D analysis is not of Romero, we'll use it to illustrate the kinetic energy that's filtered through the swing. You're going to notice that each body segment accelerates and then trails off as it sends kinetic energy to the next body segment who receives it, adds to it, and passes it on. But notice how early that the hip rotation passes the energy onto the core. It's about 1/3 of the way into the turn before when the hips start to decelerate and that energy is already passed on to the next segment. So this is how Romero can get away with anchoring her backside and yet still passing all that kinetic energy upwards through her body. So it's at this point of the swing, about 1/3 of the way into the lower body turn, that the energy is already passed on to the core. So what then is the purpose for hitting coaches asking hitters to have full hip rotation? And it's this: full hip rotation allows for an unobstructed path for the hands to get to the ball. So although she does anchor her backside, she still gets about 90% of the way through the turn, which you're going to see in just a second, which allows a good enough path, unobstructed, for her hands to get to the ball. Most hitters that anchor their backside aren't able to get their hips through completely like you're seeing Romero do. As I mentioned, she gets about 90% of the way through rotation, which allows her to still have the freedom to get to the inside pitch. This is the pitch that would tie up most players without full rotation. And though unorthodox, it works within Romero's body type and biomechanics, where she's made herself one of the most prolific hitters in college softball history.